campaigns can't even ask for it. So this is a president who's completely blocked out of switching a state that, you know, that would make a difference in the outcome. He would have to flip, you know, 2-3 states at this point, and it's just not going to happen. Talk to any legal expert on the Republican or the Democratic side. Talk to any election official, as the New York Times did, went across the country. There's just not. It's over. It's over unless he can get Doc's DeLorean time machine and go back a couple of months and start the campaign over again. Like, it's over for him.
Good Back to the Future reference there, Joe. You're right, because even successful recounts tend to pick up a few dozen votes, maybe 100 or so at most, in terms of changing sides. And that's not necessarily to mean that they would break for President Trump. Joe Biden may pick up more votes in a recount. So these margins in these states are just entirely too big. And these legal challenges seem destined to fail. The White House has had no success, any meaningful success so far in any legal challenge. And even if, as you say, one state somehow was to turn its result over, he would still be well short. There are going to be several states he would have to do. And that's simply not going to happen. So now the question is, what next? How long do Republicans let him play out this game? Well, I've talked to some of his advisors in recent days who say, well, you know, what's the harm in giving him a few days here to come to terms with this, to explore all these legal options? That's what we've heard from Senate Majority Leader McConnell and others. But there could be significant harm. This is slowing a transition at a time of true crisis. The coronavirus pandemic is surging out of control across this country, the worst it's ever been, state by state, setting record number of cases each day. And we have a president who, in the meantime, has largely abandoned his day job. He himself has not attended a coronavirus task force briefing in months. His public schedule does not reveal that he's received his intelligence briefing since October 1st. The White House hasn't read out a foreign leader call in weeks. He is simply not governing the country right now at a time of crisis. And we're seeing Joe Biden try to step into that breach. His campaign offered readouts of several foreign leader calls yesterday who offered their congratulations to the president-elect. We know that he has already organized his coronavirus task force, but there's a limit to what he can do right now. He is not the president. He's not receiving these briefings. And there comes a moment, and we may already be there, where the president, Trump's refusal to cooperate with the transition, with the government agencies refusing to authorize the win and allowing these Biden landing teams to enter these government agencies, could be putting lives at risk and endangering the entire nation.
And we're going to talk through more of that New York Times piece Joe mentioned a minute ago, where the Times spoke to election officials in all 50 states, and not a single one of them reported any widespread election fraud, including Republican-heavy states. Donald Trump refusing to concede. Most Republicans on Capitol Hill, as we said, won't publicly admit Joe Biden is president-elect. But President-elect Biden himself is saying the Trump administration's stonewalling will not stop his transition.
The ability for the administration in any way, by failure to recognize our win, does not change the dynamic at all in what we're able to do. We can get through without the funding.
What do you say to the Americans that are anxious over the fact that President Trump has yet to concede, and what that might mean for the country?
Well, I just think it's an embarrassment, quite frankly. The only thing that, how can I say this tactfully? I think it will not help the president's legacy.
Let's go to Wilmington, Delaware, where we find NBC News correspondent Mike Memley, who's been covering the Biden campaign from the very beginning. Mike, good morning. It appears outwardly anyway, and talking privately to some people, the Biden campaign and President-elect Biden himself just not that concerned about this. They know about their leads in these states. They know about the failures of the Trump campaign's legal challenges time and time again. And it seems they just think it's a matter of time, not if, but how President Trump will leave office.
Yeah, Willie, the president-elect at this point is trying to show he's going to govern the way he campaigned, which is promising to try to lower the temperature, to de-escalate the political tensions in this country. And so at a time when Democrats, especially on Capitol Hill, are sounding the alarm about the fact that he has not gotten the opportunity to begin the kind of transition execution that he has been planning for months. Biden himself really downplaying that yesterday, saying it was not consequential, these delays, even the fact that he's not getting the presidential daily brief. But I think it's worth stepping back. I've spent some time over the past year talking to former White House chiefs of staff, to other senior officials involved in multiple transitions, some of which didn't end up happening. And they all say that even in ideal circumstances, the presidential transition, the handoff of power from one administration to another, is a very perilous, potentially, moment for this country. And no one knows that better than George W. Bush, who obviously had a shortened transition because of the contested Florida recount, and then saw in the first 8 months of his administration one of the greatest terror attacks in American history. And so as he went toward the end of his presidency, he gave direction to his then chief of staff, Josh Bolten. I want you to begin planning the most effective, the most seamless transition in presidential history. President Obama's team to this day credit George W. Bush for that, for just how professional and nonpartisan that transition was. In many ways, it created sort of best practices, the gold standard of transition, and that those were actually written into law after Bush's administration by the very man who's now running Joe Biden's transition, Ted Kaufman, former senator here from Delaware.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.